Man, I'm doing calcs on her weapons right now, and man, what the f is this?
Yeah, the signature is something else on this character.
God. I'm getting like about a 60% difference between signature and like free to play options.
Free-to-play option being the Missy Wind Spear.
Yeah, I have Missive Windspear and the Catch very close to one another.
Yeah, because the energy and the catch does something.
Have
And
you
now
seen
the
the
burst is
buffs, by the
better.
way?
Yeah, I haven't calculated them yet because I've been out until now, but
Yeah.
they're pretty easy to estimate. The burst is now more relevant, I guess.
Yeah, the
Because,
burst is like the burst got buffed by about 40%, the skill by like
yeah.
15. Overall it's about a 20% buff, but it does make it so that the catch is a bit better than it was pre changes.
Yeah. I saw your comment under my
Yeah.
video that I posted yesterday. Now you have to do it again. Oh, I think most of it is still alright because
Yeah.
I was even in the camp that preferred to use the burst heavy rotation, which is now more. Yeah. Previously it was minimal, and now I don't know because I haven't calculated yet. But how do you like her now? Did you like her
I
better?
I'm not sure, honestly. Like I still feel like she's kind of limited in ways that don't feel the greatest. But I feel like she at least does enough damage to justify her place now. I felt like before it was like she's like a slight upgrade over Shangling that is like so much more locked into single target. And like I'd heard that her range like was a little fucked, and maybe it needed the enemy to be entirely within her radius to even like to target it, because enemies that were really close weren't getting targeted at all, and like it wasn't attacking anything. But they increased the range and they buffed her damage, so like now I feel like it's a lot more justified. Like she justifies her place in teams a lot more.
Now the range is almost as large as the Abyss range, I think. Like the Abyss
Yeah, it's pretty
area.
big. It was a pretty big increase.
Yeah, now it's 16.5 meters, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I was more optimistic about Emily than you were probably. So now with the buffs even more. But maybe in some areas I was a bit too optimistic, which specifically maybe I overestimated the burning uptime on her teams, even on monopirate teams, because her Dendro application is not Nahida level.
Yeah, it's not. It's
So
not the best.
you won't have burning up all the time, and so on some hits you will miss the damage bonus from the passive, the sense generation for the first passive, which drops the attack that is now 600% motion value, could be a bit inconsistent. So in those areas I probably overestimated her a bit, but now with the buffs she's looking pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly I don't know. I feel like she's in a good spot now. I feel like the buffs were actually kind of warranted. And I feel like she's in a much better spot now. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I wish she was. I wish her dead drop was good enough that you could use her as like your sole source of pyro application, like you can with Nahida. I think it's really sad that you can't.
They're very cautious on application for Dendro characters. Any Dendro characters that isn't Nahida in general.
Yeah. Aware. It is what it is.
And yeah, the only complaint people could have is that her signature is very strong. Now even stronger with the burst being better.
Yeah.
And the Constellation one really makes her much more consistent.
Let me check. I don't actually know what it does. Let me check. It's just 20% more damage. And
I haven't calculated the upgrade for Constellation 1 yet, but I've seen some estimates from other people which are pretty big.
Yeah, that makes
But yeah,
sense.
the signature in particular is something else. I think it's one of the best signatures we've gotten in recent history,
Yeah, I
which
mean
is a bit more
it's like
a bit more.
Chiori's signature, but without like Cinnabar Spindle or Harbinger existing. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I guess the more acceptable part is that she's still a sub DPS, so
Hmm.
you know,
Although
you don't have.
honestly, looking at these numbers, she's doing good. She's pulling her weight in these teams. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Depending on the team, it could be or getting a damage increase by even like 30 or 40% can
Hmm.
have a big team impact. Maybe on teams that have a very good carry like Arlecchino or those newbie-led vape teams, it matters relatively less.
Yeah.
It depends.
Oh, also, I wanted to tell you, I think you're slightly underestimating Favalance.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, completely as expected opinion from the Sav and
but like,
Joseph.
like literally just damage. Looking at Favalance with attack sands versus deathmatch with ER sands, Favalance is
Uh-huh.
like 7% behind. It's like about as good as Missive Wind Spear, basically. Plus, like that's without taking into account the fact that you're reducing ER requirements on the rest of the team.
Yeah, I think it can be situationally acceptable in terms of options.
Yeah, like as a free to play option, I think it should be the default over Missive Wind Spear.
Oh, yeah, but many people have it, so they got
Hmm.
pissed.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, also Skyward Spine is like pretty decent as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay.
It feels so weird how burst reliant she is, even though she's kind of not. Like her burst is like the main thing that makes so many of these weapons more competitive. But
Mhm.
like it's not even that big of a portion of her damage.
Well, it's just that if you have to use it, you have to invest on energy, and
Hmm.
on this with the signature, you basically don't have to invest on energy.
Yeah.
So it really makes it skyrocket in terms of calculated damage. And if you assume a playstyle where the burst is not in every rotation, then the signature like loses some value relatively speaking. But now I don't know if that's worth it anymore because the burst is pretty great, especially in situations where you're facing more than one enemy.
Hmm. Yeah, like the burst is like her main source of AoE. That's definitely gonna be rough in AoE situations if you're going a low ER build.
Yeah, she's definitely a character that changes a bit depending on how many opponents you're facing. Because if you're facing a lot of opponents, then burning also becomes more consistent.
Hmm.
I feel like. And so the sands become more
Uh,
consistent and her passive becomes more.
I don't know if it actually is more consistent unless you have another Dendro, because she's still only applying Dendro to one enemy. So the burning is like still pretty similar, I feel.
Hmm. I thought she could change target. Like she attacks every 1 second and a half. So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean she can
like
change targets. That's true. Oh yeah, I also think it's interesting how when you're playing her on field, her signature becomes worse. Like it's not worse, but like the gap between it and the other options is like a lot smaller.
because of the energy.
Yeah, because of the energy. Like that
Oh
24 energy
well.
is an insane amount, and like when you don't need it, it's like, oh, okay, well, cool, I guess.
Yeah. I wish like they could in retrospect like add
Hmm.
these energy refunds to signatures that they really needed like Scarlet of Sands like for Sino. It's a bit of a
Yeah.
shame that there's so many signatures like newbie lads or now
Hmm.
Emily's have energy refund. Then characters like Sino got
They
shafted in
learned.
comparison.
They learned. They learned from the Fav propaganda. But yeah, I
Yeah.
also actually now that I think about it though, maybe if you play her on field, you just burst twice per rotation, or like one and a half times per rotation, and the signature is still really good.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, and also the burst provides a lot of instantaneous
Yeah,
dendro application that can help make it even more consistent. So I guess, yeah,
because it's a
there's
13.5 second cooldown. So if you actually have a lot of energy generation, like Yeah, you can use it more than once per rotation.
Uh, Especially if you're playing a double Dendro team. Like,
Yeah.
I'll talk to you in private about that Virgin team that was.
Yeah,
I was
how's that
cooking.
going?
Still in hot waters.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of double Dendro. I feel like it just doesn't really synergize with her kit at all to play a second Dendro unit.
Well, yeah, they really designed her to be used as the only Dendro character in the team because you have their signature giving energy, and her base damage is also high enough in those scenarios that you're not incentivized to bring a second Dendro. But it does have like having a second Dendro character that can help with her energy and also hold. Like in the case of Nahida, that is an extremely good deep food holder because of her AoE
that's
and
true.
guaranteed AoE.
But so is Xiangling. True!
Yeah. Xiangling deep food.
Yeah. But yeah,
Is it actually worth it to give it to Xiangling on Monopyro? Like, I haven't checked.
I'm not sure. I feel like in practice, no, because your AoE kind of matters a lot more. But it might actually cheat better in single target. I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
Well, if it doesn't reflect in the actual game, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Although I think it is really interesting how like Kazuha is gonna perform a lot better in practice than he will in sheets with her, because like when he uses his E, he guarantees like that he gets burning ownership, and he groups enemies.
Yep. Yeah.
And like it's something that like I was fucking around with for a while with like basically suicide Kazuha of like burning the enemies and just using your E and then you just get one shot.
Yeah, even now it feels kind of decent in AoE.
Like, like you get fucking one shot right now, which makes it feel like shit. But like with Emilie's resistance, it's gonna make it feel a lot less bad in that, and like the AoE is actually gonna be relevant.
Yeah. I wonder with Arlecchino if the reduction is enough for it to feel like for you to not get close to that, because you still get a bit of damage.
I think so, because you're not like while Arlecchino is on field, she's gonna have a decent amount of that burning ownership, and when she has burning ownership, burning doesn't do any damage. Right? Like realistically, the burning damage on enemies is gonna be like 400 when she has ownership. On you, it's gonna be what, like 100 basically. Like it's basically nothing.
And also she has a reduction of herself, which scales with the other reduction, I guess.
Yeah, true. There's also that. Like the self damage from burning when she has ownership is gonna be really small, but when Kazuha has ownership, it's gonna be a lot higher.
Yeah, but it's not too many takes of Kazuha from what I've seen. Like, mostly when he goes on field, uses the skill, then he loses ownership after a few seconds.
Yeah. Honestly, it might be a situation where like if you're scared of dying, you just don't use Kazuha Burst to make sure you don't take too much self-burning damage.
Hopefully the reduction is enough, because otherwise it kind of defeats the point.
Yeah, it's it's really funny though. What's the domain that I guess VV domain. I kind of want to. I never looked at it with Arlecchino. I want to see the self damage.
In terms of the teams where she can be played in, I'm not too bothered by the restrictions, because I think burning is fairly versatile as a reaction. Like, if we're comparing it to Chiori, I think she's definitely less restricted, and also deals more raw damage now. So she's in a position where, like, her kit makes a lot of sense and is also above average in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't like artificially restricted characters in general, but the fact that they removed the quicken restriction, I like a lot. Like, she already has inherent anti-synergy with quicken, because you're gonna have less burning uptime. so that's already like an argument against it. But like now she actually can still be played in quicken teams, which I really like. I think it's really good that they removed it.
Yeah, it helps Sino potentially because she's a multi-wave solution potentially, but her damage is still not the greatest, even with the removal of the nerfs of the handicap with quicken, because her elemental skill will deal significantly less damage. She won't get her A1 either, so
yeah.
One with nature.
But burst will deal some damage.
Wait, say that again. Sorry, I was distracted by
The burst will deal some damage, some nice damage.
Yeah. You mean like Emilie's burst?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not affected by.
Yeah, it's gonna do pretty good damage. That is true.
We're getting the 27th edition to Sino teams. Like,
And he's still gonna feel like shit to play. Aware. It's okay. Yeah, I feel like
the character that got the most support in terms of releases after he came out. Like
you think that's Sino?
well, Nahida goes kind of without saying. Beidou.
Yeah, Beidou for sure. I feel like also because she's been out for so long and there's been so many patches, Xiangling. To some extent.
Yeah. Well, but for a sub DPS, is definitely more common. I'm more talking in the lens of a main DPS.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Xiao is like he didn't get that many, but the ones he got were big.
It's also that the more flaws a main DPS has, the easier it becomes for him to integrate new characters on his teams, because
yeah, because
even if it's not
giving,
a targeted release,
even if it's not optimal, if it's fixing one of the flaws, there's an argument for it. Yeah. So what you're saying is that Sino's a dog shit unit and he's worthless, right?
No, I actually
okay.
like when a character has flaws.
You can quote him on this, chat.
No. I actually like when a character has flaws that don't get fixed by constellations, and so they benefit more from out of the box usages and such.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good design.
I just like this trend of characters being flawless if you pull for a few constellations, so signature, because kind of makes it more boring to, think of compositions that can accommodate their usage better. Like New Villette is a character that the Constellation Zero is kind of balanced by the flaws it has. Like it's still not balanced, but it's a bit balanced by the lack of interruption resistance that can be annoying, so you have to bring Zhongli and such. But the Constellation one, it just becomes completely flawless in terms of the kit.
Oh, actually, speaking of Navia, have you done the new Abyss?
Off we go.
No, I haven't had the time, but I've heard.
Oh, it's odd. The Navia effect is being felt. Like Abyss is like, it's really reaching the point where like, if you don't have Navia, it's gonna be a lot harder than if you do. Like significantly so. It used to be that like he made things easier, but like. Other teams could still do it without that much of a problem, but like this Abyss specifically, I feel like is so rough for other characters.
Yeah, I made this video. It was 6 months ago, where I said that basically New Villette, because of its design and how its gameplay, is gonna be very hard to power creep, even if they increase the numbers. And like, unless they change like the design of the enemies in some way that specifically targets New Villette's fangs.
So Hydro slimes everywhere? Yeah.
I don't see a situation where it will ever feel less than very, very good.
Yeah. I think it's
because
they're starting to balance like Abyss around him which makes other characters feel a lot worse.
Adventure time.
In general, in Genshin, characters that had consistent AoE always felt pretty good, like Child, Shaolin International. But the thing with, for example, International is that it's a team with a significant skill ceiling and also investment ceiling.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great, but there is also a lot that can go wrong. New Villette is basically the Child International on steroids, but without the all the clunky stuff and all the scuff, and just so easy to play and also so strong.
Yeah, like he's on like the same level as like the other really strong characters in terms of output, but he doesn't have to put any work on it, unlike those other characters.
Yeah, if you're talking like the ceiling of damage on other characters, I think now it would be probably Arlecchino. Some characters can get to her level, but for example, Lina, in my opinion, but it requires a bit specific playstyles and investment. And the thing with New Villette is that it can match Arlecchino in terms of output, but it's also pretty significantly easier to play.
Yeah, that's fair. It's the time of Fontaine, I guess.
Yeah, people underestimate Genshin when it comes to power creep, in my opinion. Because
What do you mean?
there is this opinion that Genshin has no power creep, but even before New Villette, even before Fontaine, I think there was power creep in some areas. Like Sumeru power kept the free-to-play area of the game significantly, in my opinion.
I think, okay,
And,
I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't really call it power creep. Because, like, power creep is, like, it's a term that, like, is inherently relatively... It has a negative connotation that implies that you're invalidating a lot of the old stuff. And while Sumeru did, like, raise a lot of the damage for everything, it took a lot of characters with it while raising that, right? Like, it took a lot of those characters that were just decent or whatever and made them better. So I wouldn't really call it power creep as much as just an overall increase to like team strength.
Yeah, I don't dominate it in a negative way, so characters becoming useless, but it just like made some playstyles or team compositions kind of obsolete in the eyes of the community. Like in the first or second year, National was the team. Like the team that everybody will name when it came to, this is the best freely available team in Genshin. And then it became Hyperbloom. Like and still to this day, Hyperbloom is the go-to free-to-play team, I guess. And the thing with National, now that I am on this point, is that it's kind of free-to-play because of the units you have to play, but it also has a significant investment ceiling.
What do you mean by investment ceiling?
Like for example, the variants with Child, like you can get Kazu's Constellation.
Okay, yeah.
Increases the.
Yeah, it does. Like I get your point. I still think that like I wouldn't really call the stuff pre-Navia power creep per se, but like. I do think that with Nevilette's release, power creep is definitely starting to be a real thing, and honestly a real problem as well.
Even excluding the base power of the characters, like they're really starting to ramp up in terms of how much a character can improve with the signature and constellations, and kind of copying.
That's true.
The path that they've taken with Star Rail. Because the Star Rail introduced it a bit earlier than Genshin, like these dramatic increases when it comes to constellations and such. And they've noticed, we can make a lot of fucking money by just fixing the flaws of Constellation 1 and Constellation 2, because they're so unquote easily obtainable, because you just have to get the Constellation 1, so it's not a big expense. And it's kind of predatory. Like with Chiori, it was particularly predatory to me.
Yeah, like the thing with Chiori is like I kind of wish her C1 just didn't exist, or like it did something that didn't like,
Yeah.
or
I get what you're
or it
saying.
just did like +1 dull instead of +1 dull, but only with if you're not playing another Geo character.
Because the flaw of her being like a construct unit is okay by itself.
Yeah. Like I think
but-
I like Chiori's design at C0. I like Chiori's design a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense for a Geo character, and I feel like that's the sort of direction. Like even way before we had leaks of her, I was like, I think they should make Geo characters and they should design them around the idea of constructs. Having some characters that give you constructs, and having some characters that give you payoffs for having constructs. And like I like that they did that with Chiori, but then making it so that as C1 the construct doesn't matter anymore is fucking cringe. I hate that so much.
Yeah, and they made it clear too, because like in terms of how much of an improvement constellations are, because before there were damage bonuses, defense reduction, things that look great, but you can only estimate the value of if you look at the numbers, calculate and stuff. But while something like, oh, you get one more puppet, is definitely clear in terms of how much of an increase it is from the casual player. So I think that makes it even more predatory in a way.
Yeah. I mean, even the fact that, like, I think a lot of people think that her C1 doubles her damage in Navia teams. Because a lot of people see, like, oh, double the puppets, that's double the damage.
No, yeah.
Which is, like, even more, like, trying to take advantage of that. Like, I wanna improve my Navia team, what should I do?
Yeah. That's a fair point. But yeah, on the Navia thing especially, like it's so scummy that they clearly made this Constellation one to bait Navia players.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
And like it's sad because you look at like C0 Chiori and Navia teams, like she's fine. Like she's not amazing, but like she's fine. And they didn't need to do it like that.
I think she's fine because the alternatives are what they are.
Yeah, like
because
I don't think I would have rather they just don't even like make Chiori a unit for Navia at all. Like
the construct side of Geo, like it definitely needed more help than Navia did. So
yeah, like it needs more help, and also it's like it's also something I talk about pretty often, but Navia inherently synergizes with other elements a lot better than other Geo characters.
Yes.
Which means that you can give her support without it being a Geo character a lot more easily. Whereas the construct characters, the like base design of Geo, can only be improved, or almost only be improved, by other Geo characters. And so, if they're going to be releasing one Geo character every 2 years, it should be a fucking construct character, so that one day we actually have Geo teams that are plelayable, you know?
Yeah, now that team just needs a new main DPS, probably.
Yeah.
I don't like how Ito is designed in a way, because I think they balance units with their defensive stuff and offensive stuff. Like Corrin can heal herself, so her damage is a bit reduced compared to others. And even interruption resistance falls into this perspective. And it does full interruption resistance, but I don't think it really needs it that much on a team that can integrate Zhongli that well.
Yeah. And his damage is taking a big hit for it, right? Like his power budget is a lot into the defensive stuff, but he doesn't need it. Yeah, I was actually wondering what teams do you think people are gonna like really gravitate towards for Emilie?
I think the monopyro teams are the ones that Emilie will be most popular in, because they're the easiest to play and also the most obvious ones to think about, because you just replace Shenling, and for many people replacing Shenling is also a plus because
they don't like her, yeah.
I think many of the flaws actually don't apply to monopyro teams, because she becomes easier to manage in terms of energy.
Adventure time.
And also, thanks to Kazuha, they're pretty AoE teams, and she does a lot of damage. And I really like Shenling on monopyro teams.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I think the being able to replace her would be a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, like I really want her to be like actually decent as a carry. And I was looking into some of the numbers and like I feel like she just needs a tiny little bit more, but I don't know if she'd be balanced if she got another buff.
Harry, so what team are you thinking about?
I was looking at like Bennett Farina flex, with a
Okay.
flex either being a defensive option or Shangling.
Yeah. So this core basically works everywhere.
But like specifically for her, it's nice because her burning helps. Um, it helps you get more vapes on Farina, so Farina's personal damage goes up, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I'm just not able to fully estimate how much it actually helps because with the Bennett Shelling core, Shelling is I think is a bit underestimated in this sense because she's a pretty fantastic pyro player.
yeah,
Like
yeah, that's true.
people say, "Oh, we need a pyro Shincho," but I think people just underestimate how good Shelling is in that sense.
Yeah,
It's
I think the main reason for it is that Shailing's energy generation being locked to a shorter cooldown skill kind of means that you have to actually adapt your rotation to do two skills for her to feel good to use in teams where you're looking for all-field pyro. And that's not only harder to do, but also some characters just don't really have a period during your uptime where you can swap to her and drop a second Globa.
yeah. It works pretty nicely on UV-led teams because you have these windows here where you can swap out, of course, and put the Goba again. I like those vape teams. And in general, I think Shelling is good enough as a pyro player that Emily applying burning on top of that, it will probably make a difference, but not a very significant one.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the Shining is the flex, right? Like you'd play Shining if you're looking for more damage, but it wouldn't be necessary with Emilie plus like if you have C6 Bennett as your pyro app. You should be mostly fine. The one thing I'm not sure about is I'm not sure exactly how her like check for the burning works. Like, does it every 2 seconds check if the enemy is burning, and if it is, it gives a stack, and if it isn't, it doesn't, or does it like whenever the enemy is burning gives a stack and then goes on a 2 second cooldown?
Well, of course, I hope it's the second because if it isn't,
because otherwise it's gonna be really awkward.
Yeah, it will make all of these reaction teams a bit more suspect. Yeah. But I think the way the game is designed, I think the second is more likely to be true.
I agree. I think it's a lot more likely, but also, you know, it should be a lot more likely that Beidou works with Raiden. But like, hey, listen, if they want to fuck us over, they will.
That's probably one of the biggest scams we ever got in Genshin.
Yeah, it's. I hate when people defend it like, oh no, you don't get it. It's normal. It's burst damage. You don't I do understand, motherfucker. That's the problem.
Oh, it's Genshin. People will defend anything. So
yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty tragic at first because Beidou was probably the one character people saw as the best partner for Raiden. Because the national teams at first weren't very obvious, like especially in pre-release and back then where the testing was in beta, private clients beta was very minimal, like if not absent. The one character people saw as the obvious partner was Beidou. Then Raiden came out and Beidou wasn't functioning, and so people were okay. This character is Zhongli level, like pretty buff.
It's like one of the biggest reasons that contributed to her initial reaction to being so poor was the fact that if you like just read the kits, Beidou is going to be her best synergy by far, and then they just fucking decide not like to make it not work.
Yeah, and it was also a period where Beidou was very well seen as a character, and
Like, the worst part is, like, a lot of people are confused about this, but, like, there was a beta version where it worked, and Emblem worked, and, like, everything worked, and the sky was blue and filled with birds, and life was good. And they just actively
Yeah.
decided to take it away.
Yeah, I remember seeing some footage where it worked, I think, or yeah, and there wasn't much beta footage in general back then, so
I mean, even now, I feel like it would still be a pretty good option.
yeah.
Just
Um,
the defensive utility that Beidou provides is just so nice.
well, Raiden is probably one of the characters that needs it the least, maybe.
That's fair. But I feel like, especially nowadays, shit one-shots you everywhere.
Yeah, would have been pretty great. I was excited for that composition specifically. Like that was the one composition I saw as, oh, this one is pretty great for Raiden. So
Clueless. No, they needed to sell Sarah, they needed to sell Yai. Can't make it work with Beidou.
Adventure
well, Raiden Yai also ended up being pretty. Initially it was seen as a composition, but now
Yeah,
Yai
it's
has
not the
kind of
greatest.
created her own identity, likely.
Yeah, because Yai was, like, not really that good. And Dendro gave her teams where she actually was good, so people could stop coping with the Raiden stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she was fine in Taser, but she was worse than the alternatives. Speaking of which, Taser is actually so good this Abyss. I love it.
I haven't checked it out, so I will see.
But yeah, like, because the hardest chamber by far is Chamber 1, and there's double Lecter. There's on a 3-wave chamber that also has double Pyro Abyss Mage. And
Do you like these elemental checks?
no, I mean, yes, I feel like the elemental checks could be fine. Like, they're fine in some situations, but, like, this one, your elemental check, like, it's your hydro or your elemental requirements are, like, a little bit too much for, like, just Singto to be enough. Which makes things feel really awful if you don't have the greatest alternatives, right? Like, if you don't have a built taser team, which, like, most people don't, and you don't have, like, specifically the, like, hydro characters that are really good in this Abyss, you're not gonna have a team that feels good.
Yeah. That's the thing with Genshin. Like the teams feel good as long as you can make a fully synergetic, like a 4 or at least 3 people team, like that can feel good in terms of rotation. But as soon as you vary from that to match whatever requirement the base could have in terms of elemental checks or so, the team starts to feel much worse.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of just play style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the elemental checks many people hate it, because they're so accustomed to play characters on their optimal setups that whenever they stray away from that, it just feels very bad.
Yeah. And, like, the reason why this Abyss is so bad specifically is because it's an elemental check on a 3-wave chamber that follows a 4-wave chamber. Which is, yeah, fucking rough.
Yeah.
Because there's so
I'll
many
try
characters
it.
that, like, okay, the enemy's relatively squishy, but they're alone in the wave, so you kind of have to use a full rotation on them anyways. Which means that there's a lot of teams where you're basically never going to be clearing first chamber much faster than, like, a minute 20, a minute 30.
Yeah, it's the death of Sino. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
People were also worried about Clorant for, like, the initial versions of Clorant that
Yeah,
had a
TF
9.
helps a lot for that. God.
And I also I feel like I haven't tried it in this base. I also feel like her burst is often strong enough that it can take care of at least the weaker waves.
Yeah, I mean, the weakest wave right now is a Rune Guard, and her burst kind of isn't enough for that.
Fischl kind of helps, like, I think.
Yeah,
no?
you can, like, on-field Fischl for a little bit, use your Kazuha burst, use your Chlorine burst, and, like, it's kind of enough. That's fair. But TF, my goat.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of controversy regarding, which is the best set for Clorant, TF or that, or Whimsy set. And I mean, I think TF can feel better, but it also depends, because if you have enough damage or the situation in terms of enemies is the right one, that with Whimsy you can one rotate the room, then it definitely gets a significant advantage over TF. That is more meant for longer fights.
I think the main reason why I like TF more than Whimsy is that if you are in a situation where Whimsy would like be enough to let you one rotate, with TF you just E again and take 2 more seconds, and it's really not that much worse because you can adapt your rotation to have like a higher
That's
DPR.
what I like as well. That's what I like as well. She becomes extremely flexible with TF.
Exactly, and like you alleviate the downside of TF with its upsides in a way that Whimsy is just like it's a lot more strict, and that lack of flexibility makes it so that it has more situations where it just feels bad. But like either way, both sets are fine. The main reason why I like TF so much more is you can strongbox it, and it's been out for so much longer. A lot of people already have some TF pieces.
Do you feel like the way her damage is and the way she's overall designed, like it would have made sense for the developers to just add the interruption resistance on top of her kit?
I think she shouldn't have base interruption resistance, but I think she should be uninterruptible during her like dash from the E. Like you give her like hyper armor during the E dash, so that you can like if you see that there's an attack that's incoming, you can, instead of doing 3 normal attacks E, you do like 4 or 5 normal attacks to time your E to like have that hyper armor for the incoming attack, because like, it would effectively work like a parry, which would really fit well with her design of a duelist, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think she should add some. Yeah, as I said, and also you said, like they balance character based on the defensive stuff they have, and with Cloren they picked the healing part for her. I think like Rio has it right recently as some. So and I think Cloren damage is on that ballpark, like of Breezley on his best teams. So I think maybe it would have fit.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of slightly overestimated the healing in the pre-release, because it just feels bad without interruption resistance, and a lot of the interruption resistant options also give you either healing or pseudo healing.
Yeah, and the healing kind of becomes moot if you're in a situation where like you're getting interrupted too much and you have to bring a shielder, so it doesn't really matter if she heals or not.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like the shield acts as pseudo healing, and you're just like, well, why do I have a heal now? Yeah.
It's nice with Furina because she heals more.
This Abyss, her lack of IR is a lot less noticeable. That's fair, I guess. That is fair.
Yeah, it was much more noticeable in the past one, where like you have the Kanki in Chamber 1, and then the worst designed boss in the game in Coppelius in Chamber 2.
Why do you think it's the worst one?
Because I think the patterns you have to take account of, and the attack frequency he has, and the it's just made in a way that you can't really adapt to it with skill that well. Like it just pushes you towards using a shielder.
Yeah, I feel like it's not really as bad with Coplius than as it is with Coplia. Like, I think...
Yeah, I meant the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Coplius is actually a lot more manageable. I think, okay, I will say, the fact that, like, so many of the good characters have abilities that like, make it really difficult to see what's going on screen, like Kazuma Burst, for example, makes it feel so much worse. Because if you can see Coplius, like, going around the Abyss, like, you can see the attacks coming, and they're actually really easy to dodge. but it's just really cringe because you can't see because Kazuha's burst is in the way, and you have to basically guess.
Yeah, and yeah, I think there is a difference between a boss having patterns that can be you have to learn because if you want to survive, but these patterns are fair, and the Coppelia that is just kind of unfair in my opinion if you want to play the skilled way, like.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree for Coppelia specifically. I think Coppelia I agree, but Coppelias I think they're again, as long as you don't have visual clutter on your screen, they're telegraphed enough that it's not that bad.
What do you think about the consecrated beasts?
I
terms of-
really like them when there's one of them. I think it can be kind of cringe if there's two.
Yeah, two of them kind of feel like the Godskin duo in the Ring. I don't know if you played it.
I haven't, but I still I'm still aware of the Goskin duo. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I don't hate Consecrated Beast nearly as much as other people do. I feel like my biggest gripe with them is their hitboxes being so cringe and then pushing you around more so than killing you.
It's just that some of the attacks can be so hard to notice and just
Yeah.
like so clearly meant to push you towards bringing a shielder that if you don't, you just feel bad, kind of.
Yeah, again, right, it boils down to the fact that so many of the good characters have abilities that make it so hard to see what's going on your screen.
Well, now at least we knew that they won't ever be a problem again.
True! Yeah. Him being able to kite on top of his, like, natural tankiness is just not fair.
Yep.
But yeah, like, in this Abyss, I actually really like the Consecrated Beast Chamber. I think it's actually pretty good. Well, it has one too many waves, like, pretty much the whole rest of this Abyss, but outside of the one too many waves, I like it.
How do you feel about the theater that is about to drop? I think in 2 weeks.
I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I obviously like that there's new, different content, and I know that I'll probably enjoy it, at least at the start. But I feel like it's not really designed for anyone. Like, it's pretty much just a FOMO machine, because it's, like, from what I've seen, it's way too easy to be actually challenging for anyone that has enough built characters. So it's going to be pretty trivial to do. But it's also a hard requirement to have a lot of leveled up characters of an arbitrary like restriction that they could change to another set of elements. They could change to something that isn't elements. They could decide, hey, you need to have only characters from Fontaine. And what's that? You didn't really pull for characters in Fontaine because you were saving for Nutlum characters? Sucks to be you. You can't do this mode. And, like, I don't like that at all.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. What I think is that people that really like the Abyss, like playing the Abyss over and over again to get the better results and just try the best teams, won't really like the theater. So it's a bit of a funny thing where the more hardcore players, I don't think they will really like the theater a lot because of the randomized nature of it, which makes it pretty hard for you to play these optimal teams you're so accustomed to. And
I will say, like, I like that it forces you to play suboptimal teams. Like, I think that's cool. I think team building is the most fun aspect in this game, and team building with a given set of restrictions is fun. I like it a lot. It's just those restrictions are not just team building restrictions, they're also pulling restrictions, which fucking sucks.
Yeah, I agree. I like the diversity side of it. I'm just saying that, funnily enough, I don't think the more hardcore like side of the players in Genshin will love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Because people that really play the Abyss a lot just want to see their characters pop off and like deal huge damage numbers.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people farm artifacts over and over again to get like a 5% increase, or pull constellations. They just want to see their favorite characters deal the highest damage possible.
You know, I haven't entered an artifact domain in like a month and a half.
Yeah, I'm also not the kind of guy that just want to over optimize some like the because it's just too cancer in Genshin.
It's rough. Although I will, it's not much better in WuWa. Let's be honest. It's so bad.
As of now, it feels great to even get the smallest kind of increase in WuWa, because the difference between not having a set and having like a good main stats is like feels very good. But as we approach the end game more and more in terms of builds, it'll be significantly cancer.
Yeah, like I'm already at the point where like a given echo has like maybe a 2 or 3% chance to roll substats that are good enough for it to be an upgrade, and it feels like shit.
Adventure time.
Yeah, I think also the whole ecosystem, like it feels nice at first because you know you get them from the overworld and you have to explore and stuff. So it like with the whole honeymoon phase of the game, like it feels acceptable. But the more you play and of course the less you feel like spending hours and hours on the game. And so that aspect that where you have to just go over the world to find echoes and such kind of becomes more boring, I think.
Yeah.
Benny.
How do you like the combat in Wuthering Waves?
The way I like to describe it is, I think that the like combat itself, like playing it, is more fun than Genshin, but the team building is incredibly boring and stale, and I don't think it's ever really gonna get better.
I actually don't think the combat is strictly better than Genshin. Like combat.
Yeah, I mean, I
itself.
wouldn't call it strictly better, but like overall,
Adventure team.
like I have a lot of fun trying to pull off like swap cancels that are as tight as possible, and it feels pretty rewarding.
Yeah, it depends on what you like, because Genshin is more like action RPG, on the action RPG side with the themes and the synergies. Meanwhile, Wuthering Waves, especially now, it's kind of iffy with the synergies between characters.
Sure.
Like the whole Ultra Flex thing they nerfed with the
Yeah,
with them not
that's
staying
really
big swaps.
unfortunate.
Just kind of makes these synergies kind of weird.
Time to get
And so it becomes much more of an action type game than an action RPG, in my opinion, where that your skill and your ability to execute the right combos matters much more than the synergies themselves. And so it depends on what you like, I think, in a game. But
Yeah, exactly.
From a technical sense, I just think that the current state of the targeting and the
Oh,
cameras
God. Please.
just make it like I think it just feels better in Genshin's combat than in Wuthering Waves combat is right now. Playing it.
I just realized I was trying to farm fungi and I'm farming specters instead because whatever. Oops.
Like it has potential to be better, but the all the stuff that there is right now kind of makes it worse in terms of feel. And
Yeah,
of course,
that's...
it doesn't help that mobile players can't even play the game. So
True,
imagine
yeah, that's
them-
fair. I have two accounts. I have one that's no pull, max refresh every day, and one that's just a normal free-to-play account. And honestly, I think that the combat is a lot more fun on the no pull, because I can't just play, Gion, he's a heavy attack character, okay, let's give him the heavy attack buff character. And then, it's Verena on the last slot, because she's the only unit you want on the last slot. Woohoo! Like, I have to actually figure shit out with the useless characters I have. and I kind of like that a lot more. And like the like even just like the like playing itself, just like in general, the teams are a lot more swampy, and I don't know. I feel like it's so much more fun on that account.
Yeah, it's also more interesting to watch. But I don't think Genshin was any different at the start. Like, I remember having a lot of fun watching MBOCT, just try to figure out how to beat the abyss
Yeah.
with the poor characters he had, and like it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. But yeah, I think the point is I kind of disagree when people say, "Oh, the combat in Wuthering Waves is so much better than in Genshin." It's just kind of different.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Like it's the difference between playing Devil May Cry and the Kingdom Hearts, kind of. Like
I have not played Kingdom Hearts, so I can't like really relate to that. But the way I usually describe it is that the combat in Wuthering Waves has more complexity, and the combat in Genshin has more depth. And it's really more about which one of those things you care about the most.
yeah, the combat itself in Genshin is probably one of the best parts of Genshin. Like all the depth there is in it, all the mechanics, the synergy, like it's very, very well done. I think when people say, "Oh, the combat in Genshin is bad," they refer more to the applications of this combat in the actual game.
Yeah, like not the combat design, but just like the combat content that we have.
Yeah, because the combat is very, very good in my opinion.
I very much agree. But I mean, I'm a theater crafter, of course I do.
Yeah, and that's the reason why theory crafting, at least at the start, was so active in Genshin.
I think it still is. Like it's a lot different than it used to be because stuff is so much more streamlined. But theater crafting is still pretty active.
It's active, but I feel like initially there was people were more passionate about it, kind of like Kitchen Mains. Kitchen Mains was much more active at the start, and to this day I still use the theory crafting library from Kitchen Mains a lot.
Yeah.
And that has a lot of very, very obscure like tags and just info about functioning mechanics of the game that you wouldn't be able to discover if you weren't very, very passionate about how the game worked.
Yeah.
One with nature.
And that's only possible if the combat is well designed, which is the case with Genshin, I think.
I agree that the combat is well designed, but I don't agree that only happens in games where the combat is well designed. I feel like sometimes people, even if the combat is ass, will be like, well, this is my favorite game because of something else, and I care about combat, so I'll still like figure all this shit out.
Yeah, I agree, but at the end of the day, it also has to do with the fact that Genshin is massively popular in general. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of people playing it, and so some of them are going to be interested in the combat itself, like a big portion of it.
Yeah. You know, I really miss like the early days of the combat when we didn't have like data mined leaks and everything like that, and we actually had to figure shit out through testing. Like now, the only purpose of testing is like making sure that stuff does work like we expect it to, but most of the time it does, and it's like I feel like a lot of the fun for me has been lost.
I think I agree in a way, but I also disagree because if it was still that way, half the content in my channel wouldn't be possible.
True.
So yeah, I kind of have a conflict of interest here.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if, you know, this stuff wasn't like data mined, you would still make similar content. It just would be on the like the most recent characters instead of on the leaks, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, the scene in Genshin is so saturated when it comes to
That's
content
true.
stuff that it's very hard to like become noticeable if
Yeah,
you
it's hard
make
to stand
content
out for
that
sure.
yeah. And now I'm luckily in a position where my non-league content also performs nicely, so I have a more range of content I can release. But initially, um, without leaks, it would have been much harder for sure.
Yeah, I was lucky to basically just be right place, right time,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me it was a lot easier to stand out. But like, yeah,
Oh, it's also about the quality that you can offer
yeah, but like,
with the videos.
I'm not the only one who has quality videos, right? Like the main reason why my channel did so well in the beginning, especially because like if you look at the early videos on my channel, like back when I didn't have an editor, they're awful. Like they are not good. Like the information is good, but the videos themselves are not pleasant to watch. And if you look at that, and it's like, yeah, like the reason why my channel ended up doing well is mainly just because I basically went to high school with the biggest guide maker on the platform, and I helped him with
Uh-huh.
his guides early on.
Zajef.
Yeah, and like,
I didn't know you went to school together.
yeah, that's how we
That
met.
makes sense. Uh,
We've been
nice.
friends for
That's
like
great.
10 years.
That's great.
But
Yeah,
like
but
if
it's
it wasn't for that, my content wouldn't really have stood out too much from other like meta focused content. And I don't think I'd be where I am.
oh yeah, it's about luck, but luck is also taking advantage of the opportunities that.
Yeah. Like obviously I'm not saying like, ooh, I don't deserve to be here. Like someone else should have my place. But like it's I feel like it's good to like realize that a part of your success is due to luck.
Yeah, it is due to luck, but you still filled a niche that wasn't that much covered. I think like. And that's what it is all about at the end of the day. Like, the quality is relative to the kind of competition you're facing, I think. Because maybe there wasn't as much quality in the editing, but there was quality in the info you provided. And so it stood out.
Yeah, early
When,
on, a lot of the like guide content was just very often wrong.
yeah,
So
and when I started making videos, of course, the competition was probably a bit harsher, I think, than when you started, because of course there was you, and also the guides became better in general. So in order to make content that in my eyes, was competitive, I had to improve a lot.
yeah, but you also like you pump out a lot of videos and like they're consistently good. Like I feel like a big reason why your channel grew as much as it did is because of that consistency.
And yeah, I agree. Like I make like for the type of content I cover, I make a substantial amount of videos, probably.
I don't know how you do it, man. I would not have that much to say about every character, man.
Okay, it was much worse. Like in the beginning when I was just covering leaks, and I I made 11 videos on Kirara.
Nice. That's great.
11 videos on Kirara. And I remember it being the worst period for me in YouTube ever because I was just so miserable making videos. Like my mood was on the floor because I just didn't have the motivation to, especially in that period because like they made Beidou, they made Yayo, they made I'll hate them. So the kind of stuff you were saying about the Dendro characters was kind of the same always. Okay, this guy can as a good Dendro application can go
Oh,
on Nido.
Hyper Bloom. Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I love Hyper Bloom.
But yeah, and as time went on, I've been become able to add more to my videos, like in terms of infographics, in terms of just also cute animations, like the things I've done recently with explaining the character's kit through in a more visualized way. And it also became funnier, more fun for me to just make the videos.
Yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of infographics, on your Emilie video, you had a graph that said you were receiving 60 burning procs from Emilie.
Okay.
60? How? When?
Yeah. Well, I went just off the assumption that the pyro is constantly applied on the opponent, and like she's going to be the trigger of burning a lot.
But she's not going to be the trigger of burning. Like, most of the time, your burning ownership is going to be on your on-fielder. Like, burning ownership is to whoever applied either pyro or dendro last. And because her app is really slow, she's going to have very little ownership.
Yeah, probably made a mistake there. Yeah, because
Okay, business. Alright, it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, because I was looking at it and I was like, the difference between EM sense and attack sense should be a lot higher. Something's wrong here.
Well, the difference between ER sense and attack sense, so a sense that provides nothing offensively technically, and is 10%. So it can be a lot lower. I think even if the EM does.
I think I had a little more.
Yeah,
than
just
that.
no. I mean, just switching from ER to attack without changing anything in the character's action.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
have it
10%.
at 20.
Wait, let me recheck.
Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe. I mean, it might be an assumption difference, but like you're not that saturated on attack because she doesn't snapshot.
Okay, no. It's 14% for me.
14.
Yeah.
That could be just assumption difference.
Yeah, on the double pirate, on the Arlecchino mono pirate team.
But yeah, like, because EM sense is like actually going to be basically no damage. Like, assuming your ER requirement doesn't matter, it should be like maybe 1% above ER sense.
Truthfully, I wasn't sure about how the triggers work on burning, so I kind of looked at the simulator stuff to see like the burning teams with the Nahida.
Yeah, but Nahida's app is a lot better, and it's fully AoE, so it's gonna be a bit different.
Oh, the simulator assumed the single target, I think.
But like even then, right? When you're in AoE, she's not applying that burning to all the enemies, right? Only to one for most of the rotation.
Yeah.
So that damage doesn't translate to AoE.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, for sure. But I just saw there that Nahida had like 85% to 90% ownership.
What team is that?
Wait, let me check.
That sounds like what you'd get on like a Ganyu Melt team that doesn't have off-field pyro.
I don't remember the exact team, but it had Xiongling, it had...
Really?
Like, or wait, Bennett, Kazuo...
Okay. You know what? You're making me doubt myself. I'm gonna go double check that if you apply pyro to a burning enemy, it does overtake ownership, because I'm starting to doubt.
Ready for
let me check the spread with on a Line monopyrite team with Nahida. Let me check what they have here. Okay,
Yeah, it does. Okay. So I did a Yunfei normal attack on a burning enemy, and it reduced the burning damage because my Yunfei doesn't have EM. This one's gonna be high.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm checking Line, Nahida, Kazuo, and Bennett, and Line has some ownership, so yeah. But mostly it's Nahida on this team. Line, Nahida, Kazuo, and Bennett.
Really? I feel like it shouldn't be. Oh, I guess with Nahida specifically, I guess it makes sense. Because Nahida procs when you trigger a reaction. So she'll always be, like, right after you've triggered another reaction. So she's more likely to line up perfectly where, like, she's the one getting the ownership. But I guess it makes sense for Nahida specifically. But Emilie doesn't have that, right? Like, if she hits right before Kazuha applies Pyro, Kazuha's gonna yoink that ownership.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess so. But it's still Nahida has a cooldown of 2.5, 2 seconds and a half.
Wait, say that again?
They still have a similar cooldown with their attacks, like Nahida on a monopyro teams and Emilie. Like
But I mean, also your
application
on-fielder is going to be applying Pyro as well, right?
Let me check on our Arlecchino team, which has more. Oh, okay, Arlecchino is not on simulator yet, so shall we?
Aware. But yeah, because like burning damage is always who the latest trigger was, either Pyro or Dendro. Even if they didn't trigger burning, like even if they just refresh one of the auras. And Nahida, like, she gets a lot because she's never gonna proc like right before someone. She's always right after because that's the condition for her damage, right?
Yeah, okay, with Chilling, it's basically absent. Yeah, okay. I made a mistake there.
SMH my head. Not perfect video. Not my YouTuber. Madge.
Okay.
It happens.
Yeah. In my infographics specifically, I make mistakes more often than I like to, because I like them to beat zero, so and zero mistakes. But thing is, I make them while I'm making the video and not before, and that's a mistake. So I'm more rushed in terms of I have to make it as fast as possible, and so it makes me do more mistakes, kind of, in the process.
I mean, you don't have to justify it. Like it happens. It's okay-ish business.
No, I'm not even justifying it, just explaining, because I like to explain how my process of making the videos. And yeah, and I try to improve at that.
But yeah, burning aura is a pain in the ass. Like I really don't blame you.
Yeah, and I remember you saying about my infographics that they should have a chart, like a cake chart, instead of a bar chart on for the damage.
That was
the
an offhand comment. Like it wasn't. It wasn't meant to be that serious. But yeah.
No. I didn't take it seriously. Just wanted to comment on it. And I don't do the cake chart because on the website I'm using for the infographics, it just looks very bad in terms of aesthetic.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I just use the bar chart.
Anyways, I don't think I have anything else I wanted to talk about. So, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I also have to go now. So.
Oh, perfect timing. All right. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
And they can find me on YouTube, TGS, formerly called the Genshin Impact on YouTube. Now TGS for branding motivations, I guess.
Okay, business mods. Would you kindly provide a link in chat to the channel? Everyone go subscribe. And yeah, thank you for dropping by and thank you for the talk. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great.